الله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we'll start with the sermon number 27 from Nahj al-Balagha. We were able to finish sermon number 26 in the last session. This sermon, it's divided into three parts. The first part talks about the virtue and the importance of jihad. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, from this khutbah, it says, وَمِن خُطْبَةٍ لَهُ قد قالها يستنهض بها الناس حين ورد خبر غزو الأنبار بجيش معاوية فلم ينهضوا. This khutbah was delivered when news reached him about the army of Muawiyah had attacked the border city of Anbar, but the people did not mobilize for jihad. So now you're under attack, you have to respond. People didn't. Imam then delivered the sermon enumerating the virtues of jihad. There's a possibility that people fail to understand the importance of jihad. As was the case in the time of second caliph, for the famous reason why he added as-salatu khairun min an-nawm is attributed to him. The reason he added as-salatu khairun min as-salatu khairun min an-nawm, hayya ala khairil amal rather. The reason he removed hayya ala khairil amal from adhan and iqamat is because so that he could exhort people to go to jihad. He said people look at adhan and iqamat, which is the prelude to salat, and in it we say, come to the best of the actions. People say, well, if the best of the actions is right here in masjid, then I don't need to go out in the front. So therefore he removed hayya ala khairil amal. Now of course, intentions may have been good, but the way he approached it was probably inappropriate, and therefore now you don't hear hayya ala khairil amal in the adhan or the iqamat of Ahl Sunnah. So Imam gave this khutbah, encouraging people to rise up against the aggressors from Sham, expressing his own awareness and expertise in the art and the management of war, and placing the responsibility on the people who failed to obey him. So he begins the khutbah by, it's not a lengthy khutbah by any means. It's one of the short ones. That's why it'll only take us 3 sessions to finish it. Imam says, Amma ba'd, فَإِنَّ الْجِهَادَ بَابٌ مِّنْ أَبْوَابِ الْجَنَّةِ. That indeed, jihad is a door amongst the doors of paradise. فَتَحَ اللَّهُ لِخَاصَّةِ أَوْلِيَائِهِ. Allah has opened it for His khas and close and chosen friends. وَهُوَ لِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى وَالدِّرْعُ اللَّهِ الْحَسِينَ. That it is indeed a dress of piety and a protective armor and the shield for those who are trustworthy. فَمَنْ تَرَكَهُ رَغْبَةً عَنْهُ أَلْبَسَهُ اللَّهُ ثَوْبَ الذُّلِّ وَشَمِلَهُ الْبَلَاءُ. Whoever takes it off or does not wear this libas of taqwa or this shield of honor, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes him wear the dress of disgrace and clothes of distress. He is kicked with contempt, sort of like it is also mentioned about charity or infaq fi sabilillah. That a person who doesn't spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah makes him spend in things which are questionable, haram. So Allah does that. Well, yeah, when you don't spend in His way, then He provides, not that He's, of course, taking your money and putting in that. You are then inclined to invest it in haram when you don't choose to pay or do infaq fi sabilillah. Same is over here. When a person refuses to wear the libas of taqwa or libas of jihad, then Allah makes him wear the libas of disgrace and dishonor. Similar concept here. Truth is taken away from him because he is of missing jihad. He has to suffer ignominy and justice is denied for him. There are a few words that will be used here. The word junna. There's a beautiful share which is associated to Imam Shafi'i, I believe, where he uses the word Jannah, Junnah, and Jinnah. The three conjugatives. Jannah, we all know what is Jannah. Jannah is paradise. Junnah is used over here, shield. Right? See the word that Imam uses, Junnah? And Jinnah is the jinns. Right? The words with one different harakat. You have Jannat with a fatha, Junnah with a dhamma, and Jinnah with a kasra. All three have different meaning. So Imam Shafi'i says, Hubbu Aliin Junnah. Love of Ali is a shield or an armor, Junnah. Qasimun Nare wal Jannah. Why? Because Ali is Qasim, divider of Jannat and Jahannam and Nar. Wasi'u Mustafa Haqqan. Indeed, he is the wasi of Prophet. Indeed, no doubt about it. Imamul Insi wal Jinnah. That he is the Imam of Insan and Jinn as well. So he used all three words, Jannah, Junnah, and Jinnah, in the same poetry. Where the word Junnah is used, which is shield or armor, anything that causes concealment or protection. An overview of this khutbah, or khutbah in a glance, that this khutbah is also known as the khutbah of jihad. If you are searching for a khutbah on jihad in Nahj al-Balagha, you'll come across this particular sermon. Considered one of the most well-known sermons of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the entire sermon revolves around the theme of jihad. The first part, the importance of jihad and its significant effects, are explained with a very eloquent and beautiful expression, and the consequences of abandoning jihad for nations are clarified. In another section, Imam highlights the people of Kufa are harshly reproached by him. Then the painful event of the attack of Sufyan al-Ghamidi on the border city of Anbar, the martyrdom of Hassan ibn Hassan, the brave and the loyal representative of Imam, and the other destructions carried out by him and the army of Sham is reported. In the third part, once again, the blame is directed at the weak and the sluggish people of Iraq. So you see the tale of these Kufans from the time of Imam Ali, then in the time of Imam Hassan, and then even in the time of Imam Hussain, which led to the events of Karbala. They are severely chastised, and in the final section, Imam declares his full readiness for the battle against the bloodthirsty and the merciless enemy, and he recounts the past record in the matter of jihad. Overall, an extraordinary spirit of heroism dominates this sermon, one that deeply affects every listener. After hearing the words of Imam, you'd feel that you're prepared and now ready to go to the front yourself. If you want to, give a speech to your, fellow workers to get them ready for even Jihad-e-Asghar or Jihad-e-Akbar, for that matter. You use this to, rile them up, get them back, and get them on their feet. Interestingly, the renowned commentator of Nahj al-Balagha, Ibn Abil Hadid Mu'tazili, in one of his statements, he remarks that many speakers have spoken about the importance of jihad and have encouraged others to go ahead and participate. Even Quran, there's so many ayat in it. He said, but all of them, not Quran, he said all the other speakers, all of them have drawn the essence of their words from the speech of Imam Ali. Every other speaker who has spoken about jihad their inspiration is the words of Imam Ali right here. He then refers to the famous sermon of Ibn Nubata on jihad and compares it to the sermon of Imam Ali, saying that it is like a wooden sword in comparison to a steel sword. Of course, it's incomparable. Well, if I give you a wooden sword in your hand, and if I have a steel sword in my hand, do you hold any chance? Of course, unless if we're equal in warriorship, I have an upper edge because I have a sword which is a real sword and you have a fake sword. He says the other khutbahs that are given about jihad are like wooden sword in compared to the steel sword of Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. That's the level of eloquence and as far as the matter is concerned. So, jihad as the gate from among the gates of paradise. In this first sentence, Imam says, as for what follows after paradise, praise of Allah, jihad is a gate from among the gates of paradise. It is evident that in order to attain the mercy and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the supreme paradise of Allah, there are various means which are described in their traditions as the gates of paradise. So there are a lot of other things that are also called, darwaze bahisht, or the doors, babul jannah. Even the imams themselves are considered to be abwabul jannah. That famous hadith from 6th Imam, I believe, when he says the kulluna babullah. We are all the doors to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, door to paradise. Walakin babul Hussein awsa. But the door of Hussein is wider and bigger. Kulluna sufunullah. We're all the safinat and the ark of salvation. Walakin safinatul Hussein asra. But the ark of Hussein is faster than all of us. So, imams are also considered to be the door to paradise. One of the most important among them is jihad. For this reason, we read a hadith from our 6th Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq, alayhi salatu wassalam. He said, لِلْجَنَّةِ بَابٌ يُقَالُ لَهُ بَابُ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ يَمْزُونَ إِلَيْهِ فَإِذَا هُوَ مَفْتُوحٌ وهم متقلدون بسيوفهم والجمع في الموقف والملائكة ترحب بهم. Paradise has a gate called Babul Mujahideen, a gate for the warriors. It's separate. They will proceed towards it and find it open before them, while their swords are girded on their waists. At that moment, the rest of the people will still be standing at the station of reckoning, awaiting their judgment. But the mujahideen will advance towards paradise without any reckoning, with bidun hisab, bila hisab. Many ayat in Quran talk about, enter without any accountability. Why? Your accountability was already done. You went through the suffering of jihad and the battlefield, and you suffered a great deal. Your blood was shed over here. No more accountability over there for you. And all your sins were forgiven the moment your first drop of blood touched the ground. And therefore, when Allah has already forgiven all your previous sins, what are we going to hold you accountable over there? You enter without any disturbance and without anyone stopping you. We know that jihad in Islam has two branches, jihad al-akbar and jihad al-asghar. Jihad al-akbar is the jihad against the commanding soul, nafse ammara. The first call is called jihad al-asghar, which is with the sword, which is in the battlefield. And second is called jihad al-akbar, which is with your nafs. Yet both are counted as a gate among the gates of paradise. So you say, Maulana, we don't have the opportunity to draw our swords. We won't have the opportunity because we don't live in the time of Zahir Imam, and we didn't live in the time of the previous Imams. We didn't live in the time of Rasulullah. So whenever they would exhort for the jihad, we didn't have that opportunity. So that means we will not be able to experience that. No, you say jihad al-akbar awaits you. And jihad bin nafs or jihad with your nafs ammara. Without jihad al-akbar, no matter what you do, no one can attain that liqa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that final meeting with Allah. And without jihad al-asghar, honor in this world and the hereafter is not achieved. Then Imam moves on to the next sentence when he says, فَتَحَهُ اللَّهُ لِخَاصَّةِ أَوْلِيَائِهِ. We understand this is an open invitation to everyone. Just like Quran is the kitab for everyone. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It's for everyone, but what is it? Who is going to benefit from it? Muttaqeen. This book is for everyone, but it's hidayat for only muttaqeen. Any Tom, Dick and Harry has access to this book. Anyone can look up this book. Anyone can find it online, buy a copy of it. But you think they're going to get the hidayat from this book? No. Only those who are muttaqi, ba taqwa and pious, they will be able to get guidance from it. Similarly is the concept of this jihad. It says Allah has opened the gate for His exclusive friends. It's an open invitation for everyone, but only khas of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be able to take benefit from it. It is true that jihad against both the external and the internal enemies is the duty upon all Muslims. However, only the exclusive awliya al-khas, Imam uses the word khasatan, of Allah are able to traverse both of these paths with pure intention and carry them through to the final stage. Others may at times enter the field with impure intentions, seeking spoils, fame, recognition, or similar motives, and do not reach the end. A lot of time people might end up being in the battlefield, but they did not intend on doing so. Remember Shahid-e-Himar? We gave the example of that the last. There was a person who was looking for his donkey and who had ran away, fled from him. He ran after him and there was a battle going on. He ended up being in the battlefield and he died. He said, was this man here to fight? He said, no, he was here to look for his donkey. But he got in the mix of the fire and he died. So he was Shahid-e-Himar. The only khas of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the awliya, are those who advance in jihad with sincerity of intention until the final stage. And they are the ones who exercise patience in the face of all the difficulties of jihad al-akbar as well. And the jihad al-asghar then becomes easy for them. When jihad al-akbar is accomplished with their nafs ammara, then jihad al-asghar is a walk in the park for them. It's not that difficult. But the moment you have struggles with your jihad al-akbar, with your nafs, then you have that much difficulty conquering jihad al-asghar as well. Therefore, the objection, why did Imam say that Allah has opened the gate of jihad to His exclusive friends? While we know it's the duty of all Muslims, no longer remains, ambiguity. Why? Because the person who is able to do jihad al-akbar is definitely able to do jihad al-asghar as well. But those who are unable to do jihad al-akbar, as many of us fail to do jihad al-akbar, we fall prey to our desires. We don't end up control our desires. We don't obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't obey Prophet and Imams in our daily lives. You think we're going to be able to stand any chance in front of the enemy in front lines? No. From this sentence, one may also derive the point that whoever successfully fulfills both Akbar and Asghar will be among the Khassan awliya Allah. In the third, fourth, and the fifth description regarding jihad, Imam says, وَهُوَ لِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى وَدِرْعُ اللَّهِ الْحَسِينَ وَجُنَّتُهُ الْوَثِيقَى. And it is the garment of God consciousness and the firm armor of Allah and His reliable shield. Now we know both clothing is a means of adornment and beauty for a person, and it's also protection for the body from heat, cold, and the harms that may affect it when exposed. You didn't expect 48 degrees this morning, did you? When you got out of the house? Well, maybe you did, because it started getting cold last night as well. And we're this first day of June, and we still have to use our jackets. Whatever happened to global warming? But with that said, you made sure that you checked the weather and you dressed accordingly. Otherwise, if you had walked in here with half sleeves or short sleeves, you would have been in trouble because it was windy and it was cold. You might even have had to turn on the heat in your car. I did. With that said, what does this libas do? This libas protected your body from the cold weather this morning. Similarly, it protects your body from hot weather as well. The UV rays and all that stuff, it protects your body both ways, cold and hot. So that's one of the means of this libas. So this libas protects our bodies, right? And we also put on this libas to do what? To present ourselves, to look good, to be, to adorn ourselves. When you go to a wedding, you don't walk in with your gym clothes. When you go to work, maybe work you do walk in with your gym clothes nowadays, but nonetheless, you will go in presentable with libas, which is, beautifying you, and it's clean and it's nice and whatnot. It gives your appearance a better appearance. This means for both adornment as well as protection. Similarly, jihad is a source of honor, dignity, pride for nations and people. You know how right away, whenever there's a war, a battle between two countries, how the hubbul watani and their love for their country comes above and beyond everything else. Why? It's a safeguard against various forms of harm and is expressed later in the sermon with a different phrase. A bare body is unattractive. Imagine someone who's walking around without clothes. It's unattractive. You're like, what's going on, man? Put some clothes on. Don't have to be the most attractive of the clothes, but something that covers your body. We don't want to be looking at people walking around naked without any clothes. So the same way, likewise, a person who is not wearing anything is exposed, is highly vulnerable. Likewise, a nation that abandons jihad will become humiliated. Just like not wearing clothes is a matter of dishonor and humiliation, not going to jihad is also a matter of dishonor and humiliation. Why? The enemy will be able to attack and the enemy will be able to gain control over you, and here you are disgraced. But why clothing has been attributed to taqwa? Not just here, but also in khutbah number 193, which is also called Khutbatul Muttaqeen. We've talked about that khutbah in our Friday sermons. Imam mentions libasul taqwa, and he talks about what should be the libas of muttaqeen. And this is a concept which of course is derived from the ayat of Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Araf, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. Therefore, the intended meaning is that the garment of taqwa, which is referred to in the Quran, finds its most complete manifestation in jihad. What is libas al-taqwa? Libas al-taqwa is the libas of jihad over here, which from all angles secures the society in safety and protection. If it did not exist, if we didn't have our strong men bordering the borders and patrolling the borders, we all be vulnerable. If we didn't have the locks on our doors, if we didn't have a security guard outside, if we didn't have any of these things, these protections, if we didn't have the security system installed in our houses, we'll feel vulnerable, especially when we're not there. When we have left the country or when we have left the state or we've gone out somewhere as on a vacation and we just rely on, a good neighbor and whatnot, and we don't put on all these means of shield and armor and protection and don't rely on these things. Allah says the same thing. Do all that and then do, tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A man came to Prophet. Prophet said, what did you do with your animal? He said, tawakkul ala Allah. He said, no, tie him to a tree, then do tawakkul to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't just leave him stranded and abandoned and then say, oh, Allah will take care of my animal. No. You got to play your role initially for Allah to go ahead and fulfill His promise. So, in the next sentence, Imam compares jihad to a firm armor And the third sentence, to a reliable shield, both of which are defensive tools in battle, just as the ancient warfare, those who lacked the armor on their bodies, they were vulnerable. They were easy targets. Those who were wearing the armor, you couldn't shoot arrows from far distance. You would have to, skip their body, maybe try and, they were wearing helmets on the head. You would have to hit them somewhere on their legs maybe, if their legs were exposed. But you won't be able to hit them on their bodies. Why? Because they were wearing an armor. It's a reliable shield, which is mentioned. Their hands were not safe from the enemy's strike. Likewise, a nation that abandons jihad will be extremely weak and vulnerable before the blows of the enemy. This expression may be reference to the fact that the purpose of jihad is not to attack others. Right? Sometimes the misinterpretation given by the Taliban and the ISIS and the Al-Qaeda's and all these extremist groups is to attack others. That's what jihad is. That's what they've been misusing the word jihad for. The jihad that has this very sacred connotation has been misconstrued. The meaning has been, manipulated and misused by these extremist groups. The word jihad was so sacred. Now you're afraid of using this word in an online forum. Now you're afraid of saying this word, in a train, in an airplane, for example, right? You say the word jihad, there'll be a panic all around. Even non-Muslims know the word jihad now because of its negative connotations that it is. But it's a very sacred word. And we've talked a great deal in length about the purpose of it. It's not to attack others or seek expansion or to usurp wealth or to impose beliefs. And that's what Taliban were doing, imposing their beliefs. That's what the ISIS were doing, imposing their ideology of Wahhabism, for example. And my way or highway, if either you follow what we are preaching or you are kafir. And takfiriyat is there, not just for non-Muslims, but for the Muslims, other Muslims as well. Attacking and expanding, that's what their entire agenda was. For we believe that the logic of Islam and the Quran is so powerful that it advances without any need for the sword. Islam itself has beauty that will expand on its own if it's explained properly to its listeners. Therefore, jihad has been legislated for the protection of the Islamic society and the removal of obstacles in the path of propagation and freedom of expression. In modern warfare, although the traditional shields and armors have been set aside, you don't really see people wearing those, they have been replaced with much more advanced means. If you see a soldier not really wearing a shield and a heavy armor, well, they got bigger tactics now. They got stronger weaponry now. That's what protecting them. Such as the armored vehicles and troop carriers and the highly fortified bunkers. All of these are now replaced at those olden days of armors and the shield that people used to wear, which will only protect part of their body. Additionally, in the face of chemical attacks, special suits have been developed to protect individuals against such assaults. Now, because of these other sophisticated types of weapons that are used, which may not, kill you right away, but it has effects that kill you for the generations to come as well. It is also worth noting that what was mentioned in the interpretation of these sentences regarding Jihad al-Asghar, the external enemy, is equally true in the Jihad al-Akbar as well, the struggle against the self. Just the same way you need this libas al-taqwa, this armor, this shield, this protection from the external enemy, though they don't penetrate and strike your body. Guess what? For Jihad al-Akbar, to protect your nafs, to fight against your nafs, to fight against the desires, and to stand up against the shaitan, there's no struggle against the self. The heart and soul of a person will become severely vulnerable to the attacks of shaitan. So you need an armor for that as well. You need a shield for that as well. As-salatu tanhan al-fahshai wal-munkar. Salat becomes that shield. As-sawmu junnah, right? The same word. Sawm is considered to be junnah, a shield and an armor against many vices, many evils, many of the crimes and the indecencies. And similarly, all the other acts of worship become what? They become that shield for this jihad al-akbar. So in order to protect your nafs, you need to have these weapons such as salat and so on and so forth. Then Imam turns to the negative aspect of abandoning jihad, because these people who abandoned it, the people of Kufa who abandoned it, in these brief and meaningful phrases. Number 4, Imam points out by saying, فَمَنْ تَرَكَهُ رَغْبَةً عَنْهُ أَلْبَسَهُ اللَّهُ ثَوْبَ الذُّلِّ. Whoever abandons it out of lack of interest, Allah shall clothe him in the garment of humiliation. If you leave jihad and this libas of taqwa, then what you're going to be wearing? You're going to be wearing libas of zillat and humiliation. The expression raghbatan anhu refers to the fact that there are individuals who, due to excuse, incapacity, illness, or physical disability, are unable to perform jihad. It excludes those individuals. Such individuals are excluded from this ruling, because you're old, and women and elderly are not obligated to do jihad. That's why the word raghbatan anhu refers to the fact that there are individuals who might have the raghbat. A woman might have the raghbat and the desire to go to jihad, but it's not wajib on her. A young boy might have the desire to go to jihad, but it's not wajib on him. An elderly might want to pick up the sword, as was the case in the time of Imam Hussein in the Battle of Karbala. John, who was the ghulam of Abu Dhar, wanted to grab a hold of this libas, but Imam first initially stopped him. He said, "You're too old, you shouldn't be doing this." And then he gave Imam some. The Imam said, "Okay, sure, go ahead and Bismillah." In the second consequence, Imam says, وَشَمِلَهُ الْبَلَى, and tribulation will encompass him, because such a person, or such a society for that matter, is like a house or city without defense. When this happens, there is no defense for you, to which predatory beasts and harmful creatures attack from every direction, and they can easily penetrate and enter. You're opening the floodgates for them. Indeed, it is the iron wall of jihad. They use iron dome. There's this iron dome and the iron wall of jihad that prevents such tribulations and drives away vicious and harmful beings. The third consequence that Imam mentions, he says, such a person gets afflicted with the humiliation. Such a person becomes afflicted with the humiliation and lowliness. وَدُيِّثَ بِالصِّغَارِ وَالْقَمَاءَةِ. Why should he not become humiliated and low? When he has lost the capital of greatness and honor, which is jihad, and remains empty-handed. So it is true that this sentence is close to the meaning of the first one, where Imam used the word zillat. This is also similar, but synonymous to that. There is a discussion of zillat before, and here is about saghar, abasement, and qama'a, lowliness. These two concepts are distinct, though closely connected as cause and effect. So if you go in the linguistic explanation of it, which I don't have the time to go into it, there is a difference between the two. But Imam nonetheless repeats it, and commentators have talked about it, how the first, which is zillat, is different than these words that I'm using. But of course, we are resorting to the translation of both as humiliation. Sometimes in Arabic you have words, but we translate them however we can in English. So you have the word muhabbat, you say love. You have the word mawaddat, you say what? Love. We don't have any other description for the word mawaddat. Although these are two distinct words, there's meaning that is different. The fourth affliction that befalls on one who abandons jihad is وَضُرِبَ عَلَى قَلْبِهِ بِالْأَصْحَابِ. His heart will be stricken with ishab, confusion, excess, or mental ruin. Weak and incapable, overpowered and defeated individuals are constantly plagued by delusion and accurately assessing realities as they truly are becoming, it becomes difficult for them. Fear of the enemy causes them to fail or to fall into nightmare of terrifying imagination. That impetuous nature. A person becomes weak, terrified. That's why it's not up to everybody in the society to go ahead and bear arms. There are only those who show that courage and willingness to sacrifice, altruism. Not all everybody will have that. Instead of seeking triumph under the shadow of swords and battlefield, they might, for example, turn to sorcerers and magicians. That's what a lot of people in the past used to do as well. Now we'll do our taweez and ganda. We will go ahead and do this and that and to ward off our enemy. No, stand up in a form man to man or woman to woman for that matter. But don't resort to these sorceries and magic. History contains examples of such individuals. It is evident that only weak and helpless people seek refuge in such superstitious matters, whereas brave mujahideen remain strangers to these illusions. And the fifth consequence is that, this is the last one, وَأُدِيلَ الْحَقُّ مِنْهُ بِتَزْيِيعِ الْجِهَادِ. Due to the neglect of jihad, the right is taken away from him. For, as well as known proverb says, rights are taken, not given. The arrogant oppressors, global usurpers, and the rebellious tyrants have never willingly handed over the rights of the rightful owners. You had to twist their arm to get the rights out of them, which they had usurped. One must become strong and seize one's right from their grip. In the blessed words of Imam in sermon number 29, which we will get to inshallah very soon, it is stated, La yudrakul haqqu illa bil jid. The right is not attained except through earnest efforts. You need to show effort. Give this example. It says, if you lose something, if you recite kalama istirja, it will help you finding it. So for example, I lost my phone and I want to find it. If you recite inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, it will help you find that lost object. But imagine I lost it in the other room. And I'm sitting in this room and reciting inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You're never going to find it. This is supplementary to you go out looking for it. First you need to go search for it and then read inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So la yudrikul haqqu illa bil jid. The right is not attained except through earnest efforts. And the sixth consequence, Imam mentions, where he said, Wasim al-khasfa, he is made to follow the path of annihilation, considering the khasfa and khasuf refer to the vanishing of the moon's light. That's why eclipse is called khusuf and khusuf in Arabic, when the moon disk is completely away, or sinking or disappearing into the earth. And the sima comes from the root of sawama, which to follow after something. The meaning of the sentence becomes such those who abandon jihad are in reality treading the path of their own erasure and destruction. That's what it is. This, the disc disappears and you see the khasfa, you see, you're able to witness the kusuf or the eclipse. Namaz-e-ayat becomes obligatory upon you. Imam uses the same analogy over here. And lastly, وَمُنِعَ النَّصَافِ, he is deprived of justice. So when someone abandons hard work, when someone abandons effort, you think they're going to be given justice by the people? No, they'll always be taken advantage of. So it's very simple. The reason is very clear. Advocates of justice are often in the minority. And even if they are not few in number, they are usually in the minority in terms of quality and power. So Imam uses this concept as well. If we are opposed to such things, then we must rise with determination and engage in jihad. And it is precisely these precious outcomes that make the hardship of jihad bearable for us, like enduring the bitterness of a healing medicine. So you take this medicine, which you know right now is very sour for you, but nonetheless, by taking this medication, you ensure that inshallah you will find a cure for yourself. Wa akhiru dawana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد